The auditorium buzzed with excitement as families filled the seats for graduation. Proud parents clutched programs, cameras flashed, and the low hum of conversation filled the air. Near the entrance, a decorated black Marine stepped inside, wearing his dress blues that bore the weight of years of service. His posture was straight, his expression calm, but his eyes carried the unmistakable pride of a father about to watch his son graduate. He didn't make it more than a few steps before two security guards intercepted him. One of them gestured toward the door, frowning. "Sir, this area is reserved for family only," the guard said, his tone sharp. The Marine looked at him steadily. "I'm here for my son," he replied, voice even, though the words held an edge of disbelief. The second guard folded his arms. "You'll need to step outside until we sort this out." For a moment, the Marine just stood there, the decorations on his chest glinting under the lights. He had faced hostility before, in far harsher places than this, but standing in his son's school on such an important day, the sting was different. Families nearby turned their heads, whispers rippling through the rows. He took a slow breath, willing himself not to raise his voice, not to make the moment heavier than it already was. His son was waiting to walk that stage. This was supposed to be a day of pride. The whispers grew louder, spreading like wildfire through the rows of folding chairs. Some parents leaned toward each other, murmuring questions, while others simply stared at the uniformed man being challenged as if he didn't belong. The guards, rigid in their stance, pressed the Marine again to step outside, their voices low but firm. His jaw tightened, though his hands remained at his sides. He had been trained for discipline, for composure under fire, but nothing about this was easy. He could feel dozens of eyes on him, not with admiration for his service, but with doubt, suspicion, and even judgment. Behind the curtain at the edge of the stage, his son waited with his classmates, clutching his graduation cap. The young man had no idea what was happening out in the audience. He imagined his father somewhere in the crowd, waiting to catch his eye, to give him that steady nod of encouragement. But in reality, the Marine was locked in a quiet standoff, treated as an intruder on the very day he had come to celebrate his child's success. The tension thickened, pressing on the air like a storm about to break. The Marine's chest rose and fell with slow, controlled breaths, the kind he had taken 1,000 times in combat zones. Only this time, the battlefield was a high school gym filled with streamers and folding chairs, and the fight was not for his own dignity but for the right to be present in his son's moment of triumph. Just as the standoff seemed to reach its breaking point, the sound of chairs scraping against the floor broke through the tense silence. From the far side of the auditorium, 6 men in dress uniforms rose to their feet. Their movements were precise, almost synchronized, as though some unspoken signal had called them to action. They were Navy SEALs, their presence commanding and unmistakable. Conversations died mid-sentence as the men began to cross the floor, their polished shoes striking against the wood in a rhythm that echoed through the hall. Step by deliberate step, they closed the distance until they stood beside the Marine, forming a line like a wall of steel at his shoulder. No words were spoken at first. They didn't need to be. Their mere presence shifted the air in the room. Families who had been whispering fell silent. Even the guards who had been so insistent a moment before hesitated, their expressions faltering as they realized the weight of what they were facing. The Marine didn't move, but his eyes flickered with a trace of surprise. He hadn't expected anyone to intervene, yet here stood 6 warriors who understood exactly what it meant to have his back. They positioned themselves around him with quiet certainty, their bodies carrying the message the room needed to hear: this man belonged. The room had gone utterly still. Every eye was fixed on the line of SEALs standing beside the Marine, their faces carved in stone, their silence louder than any shout could have been. The guards shifted uneasily, the authority they had tried to wield now crumbling beneath the weight of 6 men whose reputation needed no introduction. One of the SEALs stepped forward, leaning in just enough so that only the guards could hear him. His voice was low, steady, carrying the unmistakable command of someone who had spoken on battlefields. "He's earned his place here," he said, each word sharp as steel. The guards froze, their mouths opening as if to respond, but no sound came. They knew the truth of it. Slowly, awkwardly, they stepped back, retreating into the edges of the crowd. The Marine remained standing tall, his dignity untouched, though his eyes shimmered with something deeper: gratitude, relief, and the ache of years of sacrifice finally acknowledged. The audience erupted, first with scattered clapping and then with full, thunderous applause. It wasn't only for the graduates anymore, it was for the Marine, for his service, for the quiet strength he had carried into that room. People rose to their feet, the sound echoing against the rafters as the man finally lowered himself into a seat, his uniform straight, his head high. Moments later, the ceremony began. His son walked proudly across the stage, searching the crowd. When his eyes found his father, seated firmly where he belonged, a smile broke across his face. The Marine felt tears prick his vision as he clapped for his boy, the sound of applause all around blending with the rhythm of his own heart. He hadn't needed to fight for his place that day, his brothers had stood for him, and the world had been reminded what respect truly looked like.